Don't you stop and not even stop. Running corpses like that on the ground. Yelling in the air, ready to mouth. Little souls are nothing at all. Just sort of body devout and whole. We're annihilating population reduced. You know the weekend is playing too strong. Hellraiser!
Welcome, sinners, to another episode of Saturday Night Cinema. As always, I'm your host, Sawyer St. Sin. And, what began in hell will end on earth. Anyone familiar with that tagline? That's right. We're talking about Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. And, when you really think about it, aren't all of the Hellraisers like Hell on Earth? Technically, right? I guess. Anyways, this is just like, how we talked about in Jason part 6. This is like the Hellraisers, rock and roll sequel, I guess is what you would say. And of course, we'll talk about the soundtrack later on because, some points there. But release date, 9/11/1992. So its anniversary is coming up pretty soon. Our director for this was Anthony Hitchcock. Like Hitchcock, but not, quite. There's just a few letters missing. Writers were Peter Adkins, and he had help with this one from Tony Randall. And of course, all the characters are still, well, not all of the characters, but, a world and two main characters, that were based off of Clive Barker. Clive Barker didn't really have anything to do with the writing of the screenplay on this one, but he was executive producer. So at least he had some hand in it. Not fully screenplay, whatever. But it doesn't feel as disconnected from, the originals as what some of the later sequels do. You know what I'm talking about. Anywho, let's start off with the cast. So we'll kind of go as how we meet them, okay? In lineages of how we meet these characters, or when we meet these characters. So we have Kevin Bernhard, with a T on the end. Guys, welcome to me mispronouncing names. He plays J.P. Moore. Think like rich, like parents were rich, so, he's rich. Entitled, artistic guy who owns a nightclub / bar / restaurant / his house in New York. And then we have Terry Farrell. Some of my geeks may know her from Star Trek. But she plays our leading lady, Joey Summerskill, ambitious news journalist. That's what I would call her. Originally, she was going to be like the main protagonist in this. Like she was going to be the main bad guy, right? But of course, the movie production company was like, listen, no. This is Hellraiser. We need Pinhead. Fucking put him in there. Because if you've seen 2, you would know that supposedly he died. So they've got to resurrect him now. You get what I'm saying? Okay, cool. Follow along. Next is Ken Carpenter, and he plays Doc / cameraman. I'm sorry. Let's call him what his, actual camera head. Spoiler alert. If you if you see the name there, camera head, you can kind of guess what happens. Then we have Paula Marshall, and she plays Terry. Poor Terry is, just a wayward 19, 20-year-old who got caught up with the wrong guy, and just unfortunately gets sucked in because, Pinhead's really clever with words. Yeah. And then we have, of course, who else? We've talked about him. We love him. We know him. Doug Bradley as Pinhead / Elliot. His former self before, things got real screwy for him. Then we have Brent Bolthouse, CD the DJ. I only put him in here because he turns into a Cenobite. And I'm going to talk about him, so we might as well introduce him. Same thing with Peter Atkins. He is Rick the Barman. Sorry. Just really find it funny that it's the barman. Like, you couldn't call him bartender because it's what he is. You had to call him barman. Really? You disappoint me sometimes with names of characters. Like, anyways. And then I put in here, because it's really fun, the band Armored Saint, which their lead singer just had a birthday a few days ago. So, happy birthday, John. But they perform in the movie twice. And of course, they're on the soundtrack, which is a good segue into... Drumroll, please. Okay, maybe no drumroll. Anyways, it's the soundtrack. So, we have one of my favorite bands of all time. Of course, they need to be in a, like, industrial, sadomasochistic, psychological horror? Is that... I mean, that kind of hits all the bullet points on Hellraiser and really the series in general. We have KMFDM. All my goth kids, you know them, you love them. They are fantastic. So their song Ooh La La is on the soundtrack. Armored Saint is on the soundtrack. A band that I have just now come to know of exist. The Soup Dragons. I just like saying their name. I'm not gonna lie. I like it. I like 90s alternative music. I did not know they existed. And I like them. Then we have the Chainsaw Kittens. Love it. Love the name. Love the band. Think they're fantastic. Love that they're on the soundtrack. And then there's some other people, but we're just going to round it off with, the one, the only Motorhead. Yes, yes. Motorhead's version of Hellraiser is on the soundtrack. It plays during the end credits. It's fantastic if you haven't heard it. I don't know what you've been doing with your life. Go watch it. It's on YouTube. Hell, I might even share it on my page. So, let's just get into the deets, shall we? probably run through this, I don't know, not like super quick, but kind of quick, because there's only a few bullet points that, you know, are really prevalent that you need to know. So, picture it. Sorry. First off, they really want you to know that this film is supposed to be set in New York. Got a lot of kind of like any movie that's, you know, in New York, it has like its certain tropes that you see, and you know, there's a few of those in this movie. So get ready. So the movie opens up to a car pulling into or in front of a art gallery. It looks like it's in the middle of the night. Like, literally looks like it's in the middle of the night. And JP, slimy little, anyways, we're not going into my feelings on him, just walks in like he owns the place. And he's looking at the art, and what looks to be a homeless man, just kind of like, you know, it's like, kind of, you know, why are you looking at that statue? So, you know, it's rotating, and, you know, it's got a lot of painful faces, and, I mean, come on, guys, it's the statue that, you know, she, like, put him in, you know, at the end of 2, where we thought he was dead, and he wasn't going to come back. And the, you know, puzzle box is sticking out a little bit as well. So JP's like, basically like, I want it, how much? Give it. Right? And anyways, he gets it. And he... Cut to our sweet little Joey standing in the middle of the emergency room, reporting on nothing. Yeah, the one night that nothing is happening in the emergency room, she's there. And something does end up like happening like on the other side of town, and her cameraman gets called to go there. And he's like, hey, I got Joey with me. Like, can I bring her along? And they're like basically like, no, someone's already there. So Doc goes off, and he's like, hey, you know, I can take you home. And she's like, no, I'll get a bus, and, you know, that sort of thing. So as Joey is walking out of the emergency room area, comes in a guy. We don't know who he is. But he is in pain. You know, impaled with the lovely chains. And they have him on a stretcher, and the chains are just like dragging behind them, or behind him. And one like hits Joey's leg and cuts her. But she's like running after him, like trying to see what's happening. And there's this other girl, you know, that's there. And then we end up knowing that that's Terry. Sorry. And, you know, Terry just keeps saying, like, I don't know who he is. Like, I had nothing to do with this, right? And, well, they get him into a room, and then all of a sudden, like, shit starts going haywire. Like, there's, like, electricity running through his body, right? And the chains are all standing on end and going crazy. And then, like, at the peak of all of this craziness, his head explodes all over the emergency room. Nice, right? And so then Joey's in the, you know, hallway, not trying to not throw up. So we also figure out that Joey has these recurring dreams of seeing her father in Vietnam shot and left by a helicopter for dead. Says that she has these dreams like frequent, and she tries to help him and nothing happens. So we learn, you know, that he had died before she was born. So she learns a piece of information from Terry when they were in the like emergency room, that she was outside the boiler room. And so Joey's like, well, I don't know what this is about, but we got to figure it out. So she goes to the boiler room and she hits like every spot, right? Like this place is like 2 nightclubs and a restaurant in one. It's ridiculous. So because you have like the kind of like the regular bar with the pool table and, you know, everything, and then you have the other bar where there's like go-go dancers and Armored Saint playing on stage, and then you have this like really nice looking restaurant with these nice tables and these candles and flowers, and it's a real stark contrast from the rest of the place. Also, JP has got like a bunch of different statues like on the walls, and he's got this weird like baby thing that looks like it's getting like cut by scissors. He has like what I like call like now like the Rubber Man, you know, from American Horror Story. He's got like one of those situations up on the wall. He's got like this woman holding this heart, right? He's got some really interesting things. So like Joey's going through the bar like describing Terry, and you know, finally someone's like, oh, that's probably Terry, you should see JP, and you know, that's his girlfriend, whatever, or used to be his girlfriend. So she finds JP in the restaurant with his companions, I guess. I don't know. A bunch of young women that look like they're way too young for him. And, you know, she's like, I'm trying to find Terry, and he just, you know, kind of like shrugs it off and tries to give her a rose, which later on we figure out what that means. Gross. And she's just like, I'm too old for you, and like walks off. And then we see that Terry was right behind her and kind of like, you know, yeah. So, cut to like Terry shows up at, you know, Joey's house, and, you know, basically, or no, she calls her. I'm sorry. She calls her, and that's what wakes like Joey up from the dream of her dad. And it's like, hey, like I got kicked out, you know, can I come stay with you, you know? And, you know, Joey's like, yeah, like I couldn't sleep, like come on over. And so Terry gets there, and Terry's like blown away by like her apartment. She's like, oh my god, it's great, you know, do you own this? And, you know, Joey like is kind of like, you know, maybe not for much longer, like whatever, you know, small talk. But Joey wants to get down to business pretty soon, you know. She wants to know, like, what happened outside the boiler room. And so Terry proceeds to pull out the handy dandy. You guessed it, the puzzle box. Oh, man. Man. So, you know, they're trying to like, you know, they're gonna figure out what this is about, right? And Terry said that it was part of the sculpture that she found at an art gallery, that she thought that JP would love. So, of course, the next day, they go over to the art gallery, and it's locked. It's not, no one's there. And a neighbor's like, yeah, he hasn't been here for weeks. Like, he's off, like, on vacation. Like, you know, it's never really, like, open, right? And Terry's like, that's impossible. My boyfriend just bought a sculpture here, like, 2 days ago, you know? Anyways, they decide to break in. Because, you know, Terry's, you know, really good at picking locks with a bobby pin. So when they get in, Joey's like, you know, going through receipts of stuff. And she's like, man, like this guy, is getting things from like high school art fairs, like getting stuff dirt cheap or possibly even stealing. Estate sales, different things. Guys, also, I'm so sorry if I just keep clearing my throat, but I'm going through a horrible bout of allergies, so please bear with me. But Terry's like, even insane asylums, and she pulls out like all of this information about the asylum, you know, from the last movie. And so, like, they get back to Joey's house, right? And Joey's, like, calling the asylum, wanting to, like, have the tapes or anything, really, that the doctor had. And as she's, like, on the phone, like, it looks like Terry's trying to slip out, and she's like, no, hold on, you know? And when she gets off the phone and it says that they're gonna, like, send it to her, she gets off the phone, and she's like, hey, like, where are you going? And Terry's like, oh, like, I was just, you know, she's like, where are you gonna stay? And she's like, oh, I don't know, like, I'll find a place. And Joey's like, man, like, I have an extra bed, you know, there's an extra spot, like, you're more than welcome. So, Terry's like, cool, I'll cook breakfast. Which, I did not mention, she almost burned down Joey's apartment by trying to fix breakfast. So, I wouldn't let Terry cook at all, anywhere. So, cut back to the boiler room. And JP notices that there's a piece of the sculpture that's now, like, broken out and missing, right? So he does what anybody would do, right? He reaches his hand down in it. Dumb. He's so stupid. Anyways, he gets bit by like a rat. So there's already some blood on, you know, the Cenobite statue, and you know what happens when they get blood, right? You know, you've been here before, right? Okay. So JP hasn't moved up to his apartment. That's, you know, right above the nightclub. And as he's down in his nightclub looking, he sees a very pretty lady that he then has the bartender give a rose to. And then JP comes up and she's like, oh, you're the one that gave me the rose, and you own this place. Oh my god. Ooh. Oh my god. Right? And he takes her upstairs. And, you know, handcuffs her to this block with chains. And, you know, gratuitous sex scene. You know, wouldn't be a Hellraiser without one, am I right? Anyway, so, you know, after they... Oh, first off, Pinhead's eyes open up in the statue, and he's, like, watching them. I mean, nowadays it's like with what our phone does, right, guys? Flip your cameras down. Put something over your cameras so they're not watching you. You know, do things and stuff. Or don't, if you're into that too. So after they do that, she's looking at his art, she's got his shirt on, and she's just trying to be cute and talk to him about his interests and about his paintings. And he's a real douche, and he's just like, get the out of my house, take off my shirt. Like, he's very, very rude to her. And she was like, why would you just, you know, she's having regret that she just, you know, did the dirty with someone that she just met because he gave her a rose and said some nice things. Yeah. Well, so she gets a little too close to the statue, and you know what happens next. Hooks. you know, chains, you know, flips her around, right? It's got her like suspended in like mid-air right there in front of Pinhead as he's, you know, doing stuff. God, jeez. So weird just to see his head and his eyes and like nothing else is moving. It's kind of odd. But then they rip off her skin, like ripped off her entire skin. You know, and then molded her into the statue as well. So, I mean, that's not, you know, quite enough blood yet to get Pinhead out of his confinement. But it is enough to where at least his, you know, his head is, I guess really his mouth and his eyes are movable. And he tells JP, like, you know, hey, you're just like us. You're, just help me, you know, and you'll, you know, all your dreams will come true, right? I mean, you know how well of a wordsmith Pinhead is. It's ridiculous. The man could talk his way out of anything, or into anything, for that matter. So, JP calls Terry at Joey's house while Joey is out. Oh, but before that, Joey watches the videotapes and, you know, hears Kirsty talking about the box and the, you know, everything that happened, right? So she kind of gets a little caught up on things. But while she's doing that at the news station, Joey gets a call from JP and he's really sweet talking her, you know. I'm sure you've met one of those people in your lifetimes, right? And she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She hangs up on him. And then there's another call, and she thinks it's him again, so she, like, you know, sends it to voicemail. And no, oh my gosh, it's like, hey, Joey, congratulations, you got that job in Monterey. Like, get ready to sell your condo. And so this, like, ticks Terry off, right? She kind of destroys Joey's place a little bit and leaves her a note that's like, enjoy Monterey. And off to JP's she goes. Man. So when she gets to JP's, she just wants to talk. But JP, like, wants her over by the statue. You know, he's like, come over here. Let's, like, talk over here. Let's, like, hug and, you know, whatever, right? And she's just, like, not having it. And, you know, just being a... He's just being a douche. Just being a douche. He attacks her. And in, you know, their scuffle and whatnot, she injures him. And, I mean, you know, he's like lying there bleeding, right? He's kind of unconscious, bleeding. And she's trying to get out of the door. And then, like, you know, Pinhead's over there in the statue, like, talking to her, you know, like, because she had said something about, like, she doesn't have dreams. Like, everybody else has this alternate, like, reality that they go to, and, you know, like, I don't have that. So, you know, Pinhead, like, plays to her dream side, like, that she just wants to dream, you know. Ugh. Again, he talks her into, like, pushing JP's body as close as he could, and then, you know, I mean, poor little dude ends up getting, like, 2 pistons through the head. Just, so he ends up, spoiler alert, later on, we find out that he ends up being a Cenobite, and he has pistons in his head. as y'all know, right, Cenobites are closely tethered to, you know, things that were pretty prevalent in their lives. Well, JP, who likes to be a human. Oh, God. You know what, guys? He's a man whore. That's what he is. He's a man whore. It's quite fitting that he has pistons, right? That are just all about, you know, getting the job done, right? Just in and out, pumping in and out. Anyways, now that I feel gross for saying that, Terry unleashes Pinhead. She doesn't realize what she just did. And, you know, Pinhead needs that puzzle box. Now, cut back to Joey, who, again, is having dreams of her father. Wakes up and she notices that there's like this weird glowing light coming from her closet, which she ends up grabbing the like old-fashioned radio out, and it's playing music, and she's like turning knobs and it's lighting up, and it's not even plugged in. So I mean, that'd be my first like, what is going on here, right? And then she hears something tell her to go to the window, and she flies up in her window, and what normally is a beautiful view of the New York like skyline is now a like dingy little bunker area where we see Elliot. You know, he was, you know, the one with the puzzle box. You remember? You remember. So she bravely steps through the window into his world. And so he gives us a rundown of basically what happened in the second movie, of him splitting from Pinhead and his soul being released, and you know that in order to, like, he's back, and in order to vanquish him, like, he needs him brought into this world so that Elliot can, you know, destroy him. And this is all like long-winded. They also end up like in a freaking battle, like, you know, W2 like bunker or not bunker, foxhole situation, and it's just really long-winded for something that could have been like sped up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, come on. Anywho, you know, Joey is like, I don't think I have the courage for that, and he was like, you had the courage to step through the window. I think you can do this. But when she gets back, like, from her little state, right? Well, hold on. Let's cut back over to the boiler room, where Pinhead has now unleashed his fury on everybody in the boiler room. And when I say everybody, I mean every last person. Y'all, it was ridiculous, the amount of bodies that are just lying in that place. So, you know, some got killed with DVD or with CDs, some got killed with chains, some got killed with, you know, whatever was around. Pinhead killed them with. Alright, so Joey sees on her TV that there's a news reporter down at the boiler room, and there's like some shit going down, right? Some shit. So she calls her cameraman, Doc, and she's like, hey, I need you to meet me here, like, you know, whatever, there's like something going down, blah, 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 right? So, but we see the TV's not even plugged in, you know, so again, Pinhead's being manipulative. For some reason, Joey takes the fucking puzzle box with her. But, like, you know, she did learn that Pinhead can't really take it. Like, she has to give it to him. So, you know, that's good. Like, she wouldn't be stupid enough just to hand it over, right? I hope not. So she gets to the boiler room, and there's Doc's car, but no Doc. And then, like, there's nobody else. There's no ambulances. There's no cops. There's no nothing. But, like, just 5 minutes before, the place was a mad fucking house. So what happened? So, you know, like any stupid main character female in a horror movie, she goes inside, where she finds death and destruction everywhere. She also finds her poor cameraman decapitated with his camera stuck in him like it was his head. So nice. So nice. It's really nice imagery there. And so her and Pinhead have this back and forth, and he's just like, you know, just give me the box. Just give me the box. And she's basically, you know, you're gonna have to fucking take it. And he tries, and he gets, like, you know, electrocuted, and she takes this as a chance to run. And so as she's running down the street, she almost gets hit by a taxi. Like I said, they want you to know that this is New York. And then she's running, and things are, like, blowing up. We've got this, like, really awesome, like, action chase scene, right? Fire, blowing up, electrical lines, like, making the water, like, electrified. She stops to take a breather outside of, you know, an electronics store with a bunch of TVs. Then she sees herself on TV. And then we get the shot of Doc as his Cenobite camera head. And, you know, he's got, like, the little lenses here, and, you know, yeah. So he's, like, you know, blaming her. Of course, his Cenobite self is blaming her for what he did, you know. I mean, come on. But, so, then we get, you know, some chasing from him, and then we see our next Cenobite, who is the DJ. Yeah. CD the DJ, right? He's got, you know, CDs stuck in his head, and he can spit CDs out his mouth. He ends up killing the cab driver that way. I had a really bad joke that I had heard about this scene, and I'm just going to keep it to myself. So, if you want to hear it, like, you know, you're just going to have to pretend that you heard it, because I'm not saying it again. Then we meet, by, like, flaming situation, flames out of his mouth. We meet Rick the barman. Still hate that name. Anyways, we've his Cenobite self. And so now we've got 3 Cenobites other than Pinhead chasing after this girl who runs into the cops. And she's trying to tell them, like, no, you just need to get away. You don't understand. And so, you know, they end up, you know, getting killed. Barman has, like, his shaker glass. It's actually gasoline. And he, like, throws it. And then he blows a the flamethrower out of his mouth. Like he's a walking Molotov cocktail. It's crazy. Anyways, so she runs to, where else? A church. Right? She meets the priest, and she's telling him that demons are alive, and demons are here. And you know what? For some reason, this priest looks like a Catholic priest is telling her, no, my child, like, demons are not real. I don't know about y'all. Pretty sure that, like, most Catholic priests, like, do actually think that, you know, there is a actual heaven and hell and demons, right? Right? Anywho, she's not safe from Pinhead there. He busts through. He melts Padre's cross. And then he does a kind of, sort of black mass situation. Look, it's one of my favorite scenes. I love the photo from it. I was going to share the photo, on my social medias, and then I was like, well, I don't know. I got some people that would be upset if they saw that follow me. So I'm just gonna, not do it. But, anyways, it's a great scene. So, I mean, she runs off again, this time to a construction site. But she keeps trying to get to her house because I guess she thinks that she has to go through the literal window of her house. But once she thinks that she's lost them for a minute and she can breathe, here comes JP, good old piston head is what I'm gonna call him, and Terry is now a Cenobite, and she has cigarette fingers and a cigarette sticking out of her throat, and she is touching touching Joey with her cigarette fingers, playing with her, and Piston is just not really doing much of anything other than acting like he's gonna touch her with his head. It's really weird. But so, all of the Cenobites are there, and she's fiddling with the puzzle box, and she gets it to where it starts, she solves it, and it starts zapping them, into it, right? And so she relaxes for a minute. And I'm assuming that she ends up falling asleep because she's back in the dreamland world where she sees her dad. And, he's like, oh, someone told me that you did something great and that I needed to see you. And he's like, I'm so proud of you, Joey. And at first she's like, oh, Daddy, and he's like, let me see what you have. And she hands over the puzzle box. And before she realizes, oh, wait, shit, my dad never met me. How did he know my name? Well, genius, because it was Pinhead pretending to be your father. But since they're in this world, then Elliot is right there, and I thought we were going to have an epic showdown between, good Elliot, bad Pinhead. But of course, Pinhead, gets Joey all bound up and hanging from chains. And, he's he's telling Elliot, you like this too. I was born from you. You get your jollies off on this too, kind of situation, right? And so you have Elliot and Pinhead just staring at each other basically. And then they start to meld into each other again, right? And so we've got Pinhead and Elliot just but the last little bit of Elliot's humanity comes out, and he's like, Joey, you need to kill him. And she was able to when they were melding together, everything that she was tied to went away. Grabbed the puzzle box, solved it really quick into this dagger type situation, and shoved it into Pinhead, and then he electrified into it while it was still in him. All the special effects in this are something. And then, Joey goes back to being in the construction area with the puzzle box in hand, and she walks over and sticks the puzzle box down into the cement and just walks off. Everything's gonna be fine. And then we get a shot of the building that was, oh my gosh, the building that was built there, right, guys? It's got puzzle blocks, architecture everywhere. not good for the fourth movie. But yeah, that's Hellraiser 3 right there, guys. I love it. I mean, there's some things that, like, you know, could have been better. But all in all, I like it. It got me thinking, like, seeing, you know, just like seeing like the DJ and the barkeep and the cameraman as like their Cenobite forms. It was kind of funny. And then I was like, what would my Cenobite form be? And I still haven't really come up with quite the answer to that. So if you have, like, you know, any ideas, like, you know, comment away, because I would like to hear them. I think they'd be great. But I think we have another, like, request from Wolfie. Wolfie? Oh no! Ooh. Today I get a rose. Lovely. Let's just... Okay. We have... Make sure you can see that. Wishmaster. I haven't seen Wishmaster in a very long time. So it'll be nice to get a little refresher. And we'll see you next week. Bye!
The root house is stood above. Loki stopping out even top. Bloody corpses like that on the ground. Yelling in his air, raising new mouth. Little souls are nothing at all. Just to the body devout and whole. We're not letting much let you reduce. You know the weekend is late to show.